Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
And we'll verify this.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Stone.
First.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brighton Area Schools Board of Education meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please after my roll call, please.
Mr. Conley?
Here.
Ms. Reese?
Here.
Mr. Trombley?
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Here.
Dr. Krebs?
Here.
Mr. Stahl?
Here.
Mr. Myers?
Here. That moves us to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Support.
Moved by Ms. Reed, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. That moves us to the superintendent report. Dr. Outlaw.
I'll be brief. We are busy preparing for the next school year. I'm really looking forward to next month being able to share some of our plans. We've received our test scores, from the school district. They are embargoed by the state, so we're not able to talk about them yet, but we're very anxious to share those results, and we'll have much more to share next month. Does anybody have any questions for me? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, that moves us to the call to the public. If there's anyone here that would like to address the board, this is your opportunity to do so. There are cards at the rear of the room on the table. We ask that you fill out the card and deposit the card in the box there to the left of Mr. Engleter. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Dr. Krebs will be keeping time. She will give you a yellow card when there is 30 seconds left of your 3 minutes, and a red card when your time has expired. Is there anyone that would like to address the board? Is there any cards there, Mr. Engleter?
Cards in the box.
Okay.
Anybody filling them out back there? No? Okay.
Okay, that closes the call to the public and moves us to the for action portion of our agenda. Item A, regular meeting minutes of June 13, 2020. Do we have a motion? So moved by Mr. Stahl. Support by Ms. Reed. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? And there are 2 abstentions. So that passes 5-0. I was absent, and Mr. Trombley, I believe, was absent. So that passes 5-0. And that moves us to, this was for the meeting on June 13th. Right. Moves us to the next item on the agenda, the approval of the special minutes of June 20, 2022. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Stahl. Support by Ms. Mitchell. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That also passes 5-0 with the 2 absences. All right, that moves us to item C, the Human Resources Report. Dr. Outlaw.
So I'm very excited to present some outstanding hires. We have been really fortunate. We started early in the game. I want to congratulate and thank our administrative team, building administrative team, Mr. Scaling, on really being aggressive in this. We were on the front of the line, and we've been picking between 2 and 3 outstanding candidates for almost all of these positions. So we have some teachers here at Hilton, Hawkins, and Spencer, and at Brighton High School. And then I'm also on this list, I'm going to introduce 2 new folks that are not new to the district that are going to be taking on, that we're proposing to take on new positions here. We have 2 people that we are recommending to you to be hired as grade level principals to replace 2 retiring staff members from the district. First, we have Nate Grabowski. Everybody knows Nate. Nate is a Brighton High School graduate. A few years after me, of course, but he's been a social studies teacher with the district. He does the leadership class, has run student government, involved with just about everything in the district, on all of our committees, strategic planning, so on and so forth. He's really worked hard to prepare himself for today, and we just really believe he's going to be an outstanding administrator for the district. And additionally, many of the same compliments that I would say, we have another person internally that we have been working with to prepare to move into leadership. And she's a natural leader, just like Mr. Grabowski. But I'm really excited to add or to be recommending Tracy Richards as our second grade level principal. Tracy is currently at the elementary level, has been with us doing media, has a technology and business background, spent years in the business world. And I think it's going to be a huge asset to the district when we think about things like STEAM education. She's one of the leaders in the district when it comes to STEAM education. Her business background, we haven't talked about this, but I envision her experience in the business world really helping us with our efforts to build connections between business and opportunities for our students to shadow and have internships and externships. In addition to this, she has a great sense about her, has really shown great judgment. Is just an incredibly hard worker, just like Mr. Grabowski, and we're really excited to be presenting those two as grade level principals for us this year. So thank you both for your interest and for being here tonight. So
All right, thank you, Dr. Outlaw.
thank you.
So do we have a motion to approve the human resources report?
Support.
Moved by Dr. Krebs, supported by Ms. Reed. Any discussion? Mr. Trombley.
So I believe part of the duties of a principal would be to evaluate staff, if I'm not mistaken. Right? And I'm talking classroom staff or teachers that have classroom experience. How much experience does Tracy have in the classroom for evaluating teachers?
Sure. Tracy has been a teacher at the elementary level for 7 years. So she has 7 years.
Teacher or media specialist?
Media specialist sees 500 students a week. It's a enrichment class. Every student goes through, includes lesson planning, and includes everything that you do in a classroom setting. But in addition to that, the media specialist position is a teacher leadership role where they're working and assisting other teachers in improving their practice, improving their lessons, enhancing their lessons. So she's been doing that for our district for 7 years and really has shown herself to be exemplary in that area. We actually, and this is myself and Liz Mosier, we think that Tracy's understanding of instruction, teaching and learning is really exemplary, and she's going to be a huge asset in that area. And we think that she's going to be able to be a great voice for those teachers that she's working with because of her background.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Conlon.
So again, in regards to Tracy Richards, what is her certification when it comes to teaching? Does she have the same credentials as our certified staff and our certified teachers?
Sure. Yeah, she's certified, and she's a certified teacher just like everybody else. I was a social studies and language teacher. Mr. Grabowski's a social studies teacher, but yeah, she's a fully certified teacher. Absolutely.
Dr. Krebs.
So first of all, thank you for the work on the hiring. I know that's been a lot of time that's been spent on this. Do you think this is a coverage now? Do we have 2 more positions then that will need to be filled for Mr. Grabowski in this situation?
On this list is the social studies teacher that would be replacing Mr. Grabowski. So there's 2 social studies positions. We were going to hire 1, and we had 2, or actually we had about 4 or 5 exemplary candidates, but we narrowed it down to 2. And when we proposed to have Mr. Grabowski come here, we put a second person on here to fill that role. I believe interviews are underway for the media specialist at Spencer. I'm not 100% sure of where that is in the process, but that was posted a week or 2 ago.
Are we pretty well staffed then, do you think, for everything else? Or are we looking for any other positions at this point?
We have filled almost everything at this point. There were a few loose ends out there. There was in special education. I think we have another person that's going to come at the next meeting for special education. An individual took a job at a college, and so we have to fill that role. And I think that might be the last teaching role is the media specialist. And I think we already have the candidate for this special education position, but I don't know that the whole hiring process had been completed yet to include them. But we're there. We were really early in the game.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Scott?
Yeah, on the elementary teachers, are we going to just approve this as a one? Is that what we're going to do tonight? We're not going to break them out individually, just approve the whole thing, right? That's the plan. Okay, so the elementary teachers, was it the same hiring process where they were interviewed? Tell me again about the entire hiring process. How does, when someone applies to us, who interviews them?
So what we're doing here is based on paperwork, we invite a certain number of people to submit video interviews to the staff, and they will answer certain questions. Gives us a chance to pre-screen and just get to know the candidates just a little bit. From that, it's narrowed, and I believe with our teachers, they go immediately to a committee interview. I can't tell you who is exactly on these committees, but typically on these committees, you have staff members on there, you have administrators. One of the things that's really important at elementary is that you have people from different buildings, because if I got hired at, let's say I was hired at Hawkins, I might need to be bumped to Horning or to Spencer or another building. So it's important to get voiced from different buildings. It will include district staff as well. And very regularly, typically, I know my experience has always been that we usually have a parent rep. A lot of times there's a PTO rep or a parent that's involved. So I can't speak directly to these ones of who, if the parents were on there. I know that was one of the questions last time.
Yeah.
And I can get you that. Mr. Scanlon will be back in tomorrow.
The other question is, again, for me, is why isn't there a board member assigned to this, where there's a board member that can be in the interview process and be part of this? Because we're the one that's stamping it today and hiring the folks, and we have no knowledge of who we hired. And again, I have no problem with professional staff, but again, our employees are hiring our new employees.
Sure.
So when it comes down to it, the teachers, the way I understood it the last time when I asked him, Chad about it, was the teachers are interviewing the initial candidates, and then they're passed to the principal, and the principal then passes them to HR. That's how it was, and I didn't hear that there was any civilians involved in it. So again, back to, we're responsible here for what's going on. And again, I trust most all of it, but I've got a few situations for parents that have called me about certain people we've hired in the last year that they're not happy with who we hired, which we could find that in any industry.
Mhm.
And I mean, they're like really not happy with people we hired, that they would consider leaving the school district even for the people we hired. So in there, though, there was nobody from the board in the hiring process to be involved. So just a thought. And I'm,
Yeah.
and the other problem I have is,
We're always open to suggestions on it.
yeah,
but-
and the other problem we got is Nathan, we're taking him away from being this awesome teacher, and now we're gonna have an awesome principal. Now what are we gonna do, right? Hard to fill those shoes. Checked his references a few years back from some of his old students. They think he's like the best teacher they've ever had in life. So now we're gonna make him a principal, which is a great thing, but really we have big shoes to fill, right? So it's a big obligation from us to do that, to keep it going. So that's just, I'd like to see somebody from the board involved in hiring our new staff at some point.
Any further discussion?
So we're going to vote as a whole for the entire,
Yes. So I would just like to say that I echo the comment that was made, to thank Dr. Allaw, administration, going through this, the interview process. I mean, it's very impressive that, it's clear that we have become a destination district. We receive really top-notch candidates. And I also think it speaks volumes that the employees that we ultimately do have develop professionally to the point where we have two outstanding leaders within our district that then become elevated to the leadership role that they are going to become. And that's it's very gratifying for me as a board member, as a parent, as a community member, that we're really hitting it on all cylinders, that we are able to identify not only as an initial hire, but then the leadership within the staff, and provide them with the opportunities for professional growth. Because if we don't do that, talented people like them are going to end up going elsewhere. And we obviously want to, retain, the quality people that we have and elevate them to those leadership roles. So thank you for that. Thank you for, everyone that's we're about to hopefully approve for all of their hard work and dedication. And desire to be part of the growth of the district. So, all right. If no further discussion, all those in favor of the approval of the Human Resources Report, signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
Nay.
That passes 5-2. Congratulations on behalf of the board, and we look forward to your leadership at the high school. All right. That takes us to item D, security officers for elementary. Dr. Outlaw?
Sure. So we spoke about this at our last board meeting. I believe it was on June 20th, and we had representatives from security company. I know we talked through what the vision was, but the plan is to put an officer in each of our 4 elementary schools. Obviously, we have officer already at Maltby, one at Scranton, and one at the high school. The shares time between the high school and Beck. In addition to some other security staff that works at the high school. So tonight, I'm open to questions that you may have, but I'd like to recommend that we move forward with Premier Security. I shared some information with you. We vetted 3 companies. I think all 3 are excellent. The lowest price per hour company was 15 cents less than Premier Security, but they do not use retired law enforcement. For 15 cents additional, we get retired law enforcement that have spent careers in that area. And I think that for the price and for the quality, I think it's just an exemplary option. And then our third option was another company that I thought was very professional, provided excellent service. They're newer to the security officer game. They were a little bit more with security, with investigations. But I really felt like they had a very good vision. I think they would have been good, but they were about $10 more an hour than Premier Security. So I'd like to recommend that we move forward.
Roger, I'd
we
move that, please.
contract 4 officers. So
Move it, yeah.
Okay, so this is for action. So,
Yeah, let's do it.
so do we have a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Conley, just to be clear, the motion is for Premier Security?
Correct,
Okay.
as the superintendent's outlined.
So motion to approve the hiring of Premier Security.
Question.
Support by Mr. Stahl. Any discussion?
I've got
Sure.
a couple of questions. With the recommendation of Premier Security, what do you see as our annual cost for this?
it would be, if we went 175 days of school, that would assume no snow days or anything like that, 8 hours a day, be $42,000 an officer.
Per officers?
Per officer, and there's no loaded cost. That's fully loaded. There's no like retirement or anything on top of that.
Have you started planning for the space allocations and then any procedures to coordinate activity between each of those officers and our existing school liaison officers?
Yes, we've begun initial conversations. The top priority, if this passes this evening, is going to be of hiring of the officers. And I know that our Premier Security folks talked about their desire to work with our local law enforcement to do some recruiting. And I know there's already been some feelers put out, no matter who the people were going to be, to see if they're interested folks in the area. As far as the vision of where it goes, I've spent time at each one of the elementary schools, walking with staff, looking at where we might locate security stations, what would be the best position, what vantage point would be the best spot for them to be able to see as much of the building as possible, looking at technology. So we've had some initial, but now we would actually get that done. What kind of equipment might they need? We have to get the technology in place. As far as procedures, the next step in this, or another step in this, would be to have our police liaisons actually coordinate with the company on the logistics of everything from the day-to-day, but how do they communicate with one another? How might they respond during an emergency drill? How might they respond when there's an actual dangerous situation? And there's coordination that has to take place. And here, because we have multiple municipalities, that would include Greeno State Police, that would include the Sheriff's Office, and of course, the City of Brighton. We have our liaisons that are able to assist with that, but bringing those other 2 entities in also would be really important. So that would be the next phase. I know that Premier Security made some introductions at our last meeting with our chiefs and they already have had some initial conversation. So they would establish some of those procedures. The good thing is that many of those procedures that we're talking about have been done elsewhere. I mentioned that we did this in my previous district. So they're ahead of the game and they're able to carry some of that forward. So I hope that answers the question. So we've got work to do, but it's going to go quickly. We've already laid the groundwork.
And I think this is a really important investment for our district, so I support the addition of the security officers at the elementaries. But I would ask the administration to keep in mind that this is, I think that the implementation of it is the only way that it's going to be effective. And I would appreciate as a board member having a very clear vision, a lot of frequent reports from the administration on how the process of developing those procedures is going forward, what the overall plan is, and how we're performing against those expectations and plans.
Yeah, happy to do that. And I agree, implementation is absolutely key. Like I said, I've had a chance to work with this company, very professional. And when we hit the ground in Brandon, we were the first ones in the state that had done this. We did it in all of our schools, and it was seamless. And it was extremely well received by families, by students and staff. So that would be our goal here as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Conley.
As I discussed, we all discussed, I was discussing it in the last time we were going over this. I hope that you can recommend them to our other school districts, Livingston County. Maybe we can get the same contractor and get the continuity between all the schools in all 5 school districts. And I think that the opportunity there and working between all the local agencies and our sheriff's department is a big step for the school system. So if we could encourage that. The other thing, and about this information and knowing everything about all this, you almost need a committee again. I know, Roger, you don't like those, but you don't want to share all this. The bottom line is that maybe it's a 2-person committee that if you're interested in knowing what they're doing, Alicia, the procedures and policies that they need to do don't need to be known by everybody. It needs to be actually kept pretty quiet. And how they're going to do it and how they're going to organize and how they're going to do that is no one's business except for the school system itself for safety reasons. This stuff's, public knowledge. We're sitting here, it's videotaped. And, I don't want to help a bad guy have any or bad person have any ability to do any harm or damage to us. So keep that in mind. You don't want to show any weaknesses. And I agree with what you're saying though, having a clear cut how we're spending the money. And I think these guys can handle it. And yes.
Respectfully, we can have closed sessions to discuss that, and I would expect the administration to avail themselves of that.
Well, that's respectful. That's fine. And that I'd be fine with, but obviously not in the open section or where it's going to become public knowledge on how they're doing things and procedurally. So, thanks.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 7-0. That closes our for action portion of the agenda and moves us into for future action. Item A, health occupations virtual anatomy table. Mr. Ingleter, you can handle this one?
Yep, got it on. Yeah, just wanted to let you guys know, as part of the Health Ox remodel that the board has approved, we also talked at that time that there would be around $250,000 worth of equipment and supplies that are going to be needed for that. Just reminding you guys of that. I did put out to you today, or with this board packet, the virtual anatomy table that the crew that's been working on that has been looking at, just the specs. We did have a bid opening today on that. I wanted to put it out there for future action so that we could get it approved at a future meeting. Essentially what it came in at, and we did, as part of that package, you could see there was multiple versions of this table. And Mr. Dargis here, if you have any questions about the table itself, but I was just kind of running down through the bid that came in. We did receive just one bid, and we kind of anticipated that because it's really a sole source vendor product. We weren't anticipating a bunch of different bids coming in, but for the the horizontal animatage table that's just called kind of the table or the classic table. Came in at 73,200. And then the animatage table convertible, in which it actually flips up into a vertical display unit. So you can have it basically in front of the class and you don't have to have everyone kind of gathered around it. That one came in at 83,125. We're just kind of throwing that out there, letting you know that it's coming. We are hoping to get approval from the board at a future date. But Jim, or I know Bill has seen one in action. I don't know if you want to talk about the table itself or.
No, but one of my questions would be what kind of delivery date is on it?
Right. So Jim has been talking to the company, and I think, at one point we were talking about 16 weeks. I think he said currently we're down to a 12-week delivery time.
I talked to the rep this afternoon, said 9 to 12 weeks.
Yeah.
It's been short. It's nice.
And I believe this is the same table that the instructor saw as well, right?
Correct,
Is this same one that is at U of M?
correct. Yeah, this is the updated version.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, the new improvement. And it was, we actually had a demonstration of this piece of equipment for the science department back in February. We actually had it planned for the board as well, but
Dr. Darga, could you do me a favor? Go to the mic so that the public can see you as well. Thank you so much.
not that I have anything to have to promise that.
Just a reminder, Dr. Darga is working with us as a STEAM and CTE consultant for the district.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dr.
So just
Darga.
chronologically, Mr. Tremblay, he did spearhead a trip to University of Michigan Nursing Center. So we actually had a chance to see the table and it was just absolutely phenomenal. So we started doing some research on it and we found out it's widely used, in particular in military hospitals, but also in all training institutions. So we set up a demonstration for the science department in February, and we intended to do the same demonstration for the Board of Education. However, the weather didn't cooperate real well at that time. But the science department was really excited about getting this particular piece of equipment in addition to our nursing program. But the AP biology, anatomy, physiology teachers, they can't wait to see this in the building. So what our plan is, the reason why we went with the convertible unit is that we can roll it right around the corner into the STEAM center. And we can have actual doctors come in and do demonstrations as a vertical unit. And we could put 2 or 3 classrooms in that STEAM center and have some really incredibly enriching learning experiences for the students.
So we'll have a better piece of equipment than U of M will.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And my younger daughter, she's in her 2nd year of medical school, and where she's at, they don't have this piece of equipment.
So Jim did tip our hand a little bit there that we will be coming back to the board and asking to approve the convertible model because it is on wheels and it does tip up. It's for the extra $10,000, I think.
Yeah,
it's
we'll get much more
on board.
utility out of the convertible unit.
Okay.
Yeah, because with the horizontal unit, what the company recommends is you get 3 to 4 of those, and then you cluster your students around that. Well, that's a little cost prohibitive, so one convertible unit will do the work that we need.
So when will we see the paperwork and where this will come back for action?
Well, so we got, the bid opening was today at 3:15.
Yeah.
So the next board meeting, I'm assuming it would be presented for vote?
So that was one of the questions we wanted to ask. The board is coming back together next week for a bond committee meeting. And that is next Monday. And then the following meeting would be on August 8th. That would be a regularly scheduled August meeting. So we were looking for feedback from the board about would you rather do it next week or in August, whichever you would prefer.
I can tell you that they're going to start putting up the wall between the STEM center and the old health ox room by the end of this week. And the moving company's coming in next week to start moving the stuff out of the health ox room. So to me, I think it'd be imperative to get this ordered as quickly as possible. So when the health ox room is complete, this is ready to go in it and we're not waiting for equipment. It can be put in there and start being utilized. So if you back the 12 weeks back into a schedule, things get pretty tight, so.
And technically, we could do a consensus on it right now and get it ordered and then finish it. That's another way to do it.
My opinion, sooner the better.
I'd like to see the actual bids before I vote on it, but
Think
I
for a
don't
week.
think
It's
that
only
there's a
one
problem
person.
with.
He's got them in his hand. They were $82,000. There's only one bid. There's one bid, Alicia. There's one.
Would
I
the
know,
board
but
feel
there's-
comfortable with us
There's one
looking
bid.
at it at the
I
next
don't
Monday?
think there's any reason to delay it beyond next week.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if we have it on for
That's fine.
action at the bond committee meeting next week, that would be a good
That's-
plan.
That's fine. And we'll supply everything that came in the bid today. Yeah, and you have all of the specs on it, and you're more than welcome to go to their website. I don't know if there was a video on their website or not, but
I have 2 videos I can push out.
yeah, we can certainly provide some additional information.
I had a couple of other questions. I don't know if
Sure.
there's other discussion. It says, I saw in the materials that they'll provide periodic updates, I'm assuming, to the software. So is there an annual fee
No.
that goes with that? No.
There's no license fee, no annual software update fee. Everything's included in the package, lifetime.
So how long are they obligated to continue providing us with updates?
The software is, as long as we own the equipment, we're the owner of the equipment, they're going to update it. But you know how it is with technology, the software updates. The issue we could potentially run into long-term is the hardware. Okay, when they stop supporting the computer on the equipment, that could be an issue. And so I was told verbally 6 to 8 years before we'd have to upgrade the computer on the table itself.
Is there, since they have one down at U of M, is there local support if something breaks? Can we get a repairman in a reasonable period of time, or we have to wait months to schedule something?
That I don't have an answer to, but all I could say is every contact I've had with the company, they've been very responsive to our needs. And they service all of Michigan. And that's why the rep that I was talking to today, he said if the board or the school staff would like to have a demonstration, he'll come in anytime. It seems like it's well supported, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Just tag on what you just said. Could you get them to our next meeting?
Pardon me?
Could you get them to come and present to our next meeting? Let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
Just to see what it can all do and hear it from them.
Yeah, he'll do it virtually, he wouldn't bring the actual table. We did have the actual table in February available because at the CTE conference in Grand Rapids, they had it on display. Then the plan was he was going to bring it here and then do the whole, because he already had it in the truck. It's a bit of a process it's not that portable to move around between states.
Okay, so we'll bring that back next week
All
then.
right, thank you, Dr. Darga.
Okay.
Appreciate the information,
All right.
and we'll be ready for the 11th, or for the 18th, I should say.
And since I'm standing here by the mic, Mr. Engleter, he did mention that there was we were looking at approximately $250,000 total package for equipping the health center. So the figure that we were looking at was $184,000 for everything else. However, we're going through the process now of determining what's bondable and what is not bondable, because there is criteria for that, and we have to stay within those parameters. So anything that's breakable or consumable, we can't use bond dollars. So we're in the process of sorting that out now. So those items will come out of 61A added cost dollars. So we'll still get them, but we have to use the appropriate funding source. So we actually have a meeting tomorrow morning with that company because the account executive I've been working with is no longer with the company. So we're going to start over a little bit. So we're going to try to have that finalized by the end of the week.
Okay,
So add that in.
thank you. All right, that closes the for future action portion of our agenda and moves us to the next item.
Motion to enter into closed session for the purpose of discussing negotiation strategies connected to collective bargaining units and as much as the administration requested closed session.
All right, a motion by Mr. Stahl, support by Ms. Reed. Ms. Ackerman, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Trombley.
Yep.
Ms. Reed,
Yes?
Mr. Conley,
Yes.
Dr. Krebs,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell. Yes. Mr. Stahl,
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes, that passes 7-0. All right, so we will be moving into a closed session. That is the last item on our agenda for this evening, so we will only be returning to adjourn the meeting after the closed session. Thank you all for being here this evening.
And I was just gonna ask. We can,